Welcome and thank you everyone for attending today's Art and Letters. We're really excited to be able to talk about the book, The Secret Book of Frida Kahlo. Today's discussion will be hosted by MMFA's Assistant Curator of Education for Youth and Family Programs, Kaci Norman. She has put together a fantastic presentation and discussion for you all today, and we are just so excited that you could be here with us. Kaci?
Thank you, Cassandra. That was very formal of you.
Why not?
From here on out, it's downhill. No, thank you very much. I was very excited about this book choice. Most of you who are regulars for this know that I love the novels, and I especially love Frida Kahlo. She has been one of my favorite artists since way before I knew really what art was. So I was very excited about this book, and I always want to know how many people actually read the book. So raise your hand. I'm going to scroll through.
Yes, we did read it, but we haven't made any of the recipes yet.
Yeah.
I'm not finished.
I see a few hands, not so many. That's good for me. So I liked the book a lot. I thought that it was a interesting take on her life from a man's point of view. And I say that because I think the part that I wanted there to be more of was kind of the fiery, passionate, vivid personality that we've kind of come to expect of Frida Kahlo. I think he did a really great job talking about how some of her works were created, but I wanted more, I guess, maybe more verbalization of like really great fights between her and Diego, or something. So I really did enjoy it, and I thought that he did a really great job of kind of laying out her life and her career. I thought the idea of having the messenger and the godmother was really cool. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then I also loved the recipes, all of which, as I started to read them, I was like, oh, I could totally do this. No, can't do that now because there's like 85 steps and they all involve crushing something. But there's so many recipes that I really wanted to try. So before we get started on the actual presentation, feel free to, for lack of a better word, interrupt me or ask questions, bring up points, whatever. I'm not really one to save it till the end. So if something triggers, just feel free to speak up. Cassandra is going to man the chat box for me, and we'll bring up anything that comes up there. But otherwise, I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. Okay. Are you all seeing the front of the book?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. Oh, moving that. Okay. So, oh, I got some feedback. Does anybody else hear the echo? Are we okay? All right. Frida Kahlo was born in Mexico. Her parents, her dad was a German and he was a photographer, but he made his living as a merchant. And her mother was Mexican. And in the book, they kind of have a tumultuous relationship. Her parents, her mother was very strict and wanted them to be very good traditional girls, her and her sisters. And her father was a little bit more lenient and creative spirit, and definitely with Frida specifically let her get away with a lot more. I found one quote that said that he actually kind of felt like she was the son that he never got to have, and so he'd let her get away with a lot more. She was born in 1907, and even though she had a relatively short life, there was a lot of life lived in that time. And I wanted to pick out certain things about her, things that she said. She has a lot of really great quotes about her life in general and about art. And so I wanted to make sure that we got a good amount of those in, because I think a lot of them are really poignant. I think that this top quote, it is referenced in the book, not exactly in this way, but she says, "I paint my own reality. The only thing I know is that I paint because I need to, and I paint whatever passes through my head without any other consideration." And I know we talk a lot about, when we're talking about artists and creating, a lot of times we talk about their need to create. But what I always kind of found, or what I maybe believe about Frida, is that her need to create is more of a need to express. And there's, I think, a difference, in my opinion, between needing to create and needing to express, in that for Frida, a lot of it was her ability to get her emotions, her things that she was living through, the things that she was suffering from, both physically and mentally, out. And we see that through, she has very vivid paintings of very kind of hard to see imagery. She also has images where she has very clearly taken, a knife to the frame of her piece and chipped out pieces of the wood of the frame. And you can tell that it's done out of emotion, and it's done out of kind of expression, rather than a calculated decision of, I'm going to remove this little piece of the frame. It's more of an expression. It's in the heat of the moment. And so that's something that I think is interesting when we're looking at her work and kind of looking at it through the lens of the need to express one's own inner thoughts, inner feelings, rather than to create something to get a final product. Most of us are somewhat familiar with Frida Kahlo, her work or her personality. The general public probably could tell you who she is, maybe identify her artwork. They may know that she was married to another artist, and they also might know that she was politically active in the Communist Party. But I think that she has really become kind of a pop icon, and that's that's also, she is an artist that I think her personality and her image are almost as famous as her work. So I wanted to kind of break down a little bit of her life outside of her art. She was a lifelong socialist, and by the age of 16, which if we think about what we were doing at the age of 16, it probably wasn't joining a political party. But she did, and that entrance into her activism really came from her being able to go to a really prestigious school. She was one of the only girls that was accepted into this school. She started there with the intention of becoming a doctor, and she was incredibly brilliant and incredibly intelligent, and her father recognized that and sent her to this school. And it's there that she met her then boyfriend and his group of friends who were becoming politically active. And she joined it and was part of the party for her entire life. One of the last things that she wrote is, "I must struggle with all my strength to contribute to the few positive things in my health allows to the revolution, the only real reason to live." So that, you know, even on her deathbed, she was very strongly aligned with those beliefs that she had carried with her. Her personal style became another creative outlet. She actually became more outrageous and made colorful choices and things because of her popularity, and she used it almost like a marketing strategy, that she knew that if people could recognize her, that they might recognize her work, or they might recognize her as a political activist and what she believed. And so Diego Rivera also really played a hand in how she portrayed herself, almost like a character, and he saw that that could benefit her in her career, and so he encouraged her to do that. It also was convenient that the big flowy skirts and things that she was known for also covered up her injured leg that was crippled in the bus accident that she was in when she was 16 or 17. And when a railing punctured through her abdomen and went through her uterus and hit her spine. And she spent months bedridden in a full torso cast. And that's actually where she first picked up her paintbrush. So I had mentioned that Frida is a pop culture icon even today. I even have brought Frida with me today. So this sits on my desk. And I wanted to show that, you know, even though she passed away in 1954, these are all things that are available right now on Etsy. Except for Flora, of course, who's over on the right. That's one of our
You cannot buy my daughter.
But so, you know, I was trying to think of another visual artist that is easily recognizable by their image of their person as their work is. You know, I can think of musicians that if you see their image, their photograph, whatever, you know instantly who they are, even if you don't listen to their music. I can think of actors who are the same, that I can recognize Cary Grant from a photograph. I don't know that I can have a long list of what his movies were. But I cannot think of another visual artist that is so recognizable just by their photograph, image, whatever. And I think that says a lot about her character, and that says a lot about why people not only love her work, but love her as an artist. I think she stands for a lot, especially for women.
How much of that do you think has to do with the fact that she did a lot of self-portraits, though?
You know, I don't know, because I think some of that is definitely, yes, intentional, but I also think that she made choices about her, the way that she portrayed herself. I definitely think it was a marketing strategy. Absolutely. Why it carries over today, I find interesting. Oh, there's little grown-up Flora now. But, you know, again, you think of artists like Andy Warhol. General public, everybody at least would probably recognize the name Andy Warhol. But what do they think of when they think Andy Warhol?
Marilyn Monroe.
Right? Marilyn Monroe. They don't actually think of the artist's image. And I think, so that's what's interesting to me. And that she's everywhere. I mean, we can get a mask with her image on it right now. And I just think that's really powerful for an artist to have that kind of staying power. All right. So Frida had said, and it's actually the quote that's on the back of the book, that she had two grave accidents in her life. And one of them was her bus accident, and the other was Diego Rivera. So talking a little bit about her accident, her bus accident. If you haven't seen the movie that has Selma Hayek in it, you know, I love it. I think it's a great kind of popular culture way to learn about the artist's life, but I think that also it has a really beautiful scene of the bus accident, and it's one that is kind of embedded in my mind. And I thought for sure that it was actually based on one of Frida's paintings, but it's not. It was just the scene in the movie. But that's how much it stuck with me. But so she had just turned 18 when she was in the bus accident. She was on the bus with her friends, her boyfriend at the time, and it ran into a truck. And so that over on the right is a piece that she did about the accident. She was one of several people that was hurt in it, but it definitely affected her entire life. She was very lucky to survive it, and really struggled physically because of it for the rest of her life. She had several surgeries, ended up losing her leg at one point, closer to her death. And this photograph is an image of her painting her cast. This is later in her life. This is not when she was 18, but she had to have several surgeries. There is some people that believe that she tried to get attention from Diego specifically by having surgeries. I had never heard that before. I had read that during some of my research. I feel like that's a lot of physical pain and suffering that you would have to go through just to get somebody's attention, but I'm not sure. The other accident in her life was marrying Diego Rivera. They married in 1929 and then divorced in 1940 and then remarried him that same year. They both had relationships with other people, but at the end of the day, neither one of them wanted to be without the other. The book has a lot of Frida's relationships with other women and some other men. Some of them are very well known. Some of them, I think, are more, it would be a juicier story if it's true. But there's not a lot of evidence that, yes, that is actually what happened. But this was a painting that Frida did after they got married. And the reason that art historians find this piece is really significant is because she has painted herself as kind of the docile wife to a famous painter. He's the one that's holding the palette and brushes. She is not. And she is kind of demure and has her hand gently over his. And it's more about, in this painting, that she is a wife and a partner rather than an artist. And I think that's really interesting, that even in the book, it hints at that she made that distinguishing decision to make herself separate from her career, and that this was really about their marriage and her partnership with him for life.
What does the banner say?
You know, I actually don't know. You could probably Google it though. Somebody, Laura, go Google. She's on. I chose this quote at the bottom because it's kind of creepy, but also really deep. You know, I love you more than my own skin. And their life together was a struggle. They fought and broke up and got back together, and they hurt each other on purpose, and but they couldn't be apart. And I think that the book actually does a really great job of saying that and kind of showing that even though they hurt each other, that there was always this pull and the need to be with each other. And he was with her up until her death. All right, I'm going to move on, but we'll come back to the quote if Laura can find it.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thanks. All right, so these are two images that I wanted to take some time to talk about because they are shocking, and they are about kind of, the one on the left specifically is really about a taboo subject that doesn't get shown in visual art, especially when she was making these in the 1930s. And you know, the thing about that I love about Frida Kahlo's work is that she is not afraid to go to those subjects that aren't talked about, but she's also not shy about showing the vulgarity of them and the pain and the kind of violence of it. So this is Henry Ford Hospital, also called the Flying Bed. This was when her and Diego were in Detroit, and he was commissioned to do a mural, and she had gotten pregnant. And even though the doctors told her that she would likely not be able to carry, she decided not to abort and that she was going to try to carry the baby. And she had a miscarriage fairly early on in the pregnancy, and she was devastated. In the book, he aligns it also with a shift in their relationship between her and Diego, in that there was no longer a physical relationship between the two. I don't know that that is true. That timing lines up with that particular event. But Diego did have other children.
Yes, you did.
Mary, can you mute, please? Thank you. So she was really distraught about not being able to carry a child and not be able to give Diego descendants. I have, that not only takes place in this book, but other things that I have learned about Frida, it kind of goes back to, she really, from a very early age, wanted to be a mother. Not only did that she feel like that was what she was supposed to do as a woman, but she actually genuinely wanted it also. And so that not being able to, and not being able to really express to anyone that loss and that grief that she was feeling, maybe she didn't feel like she could verbalize it, or that just nobody would understand because they hadn't been through it. And so I think she was able to, again, that need to express, she did that in this painting. So we have several things that are coming from the figure through a bloodline that's tied to all of these objects. And in the background, we have kind of the industrial background of Detroit, where, you know, in the book, it talks about how she was very unhappy there. She didn't like it. She did not have a very positive experience while they were there. Not only she had a miscarriage, but she was also struggling with Diego, but also just her interactions with the people of Detroit. She just did not belong. And so this image I thought was, it's striking. I think if anyone who has been through a pregnancy loss, I think that there's a certain element of emotion to it, but also, you know, sadness, anger, this idea of, you know, actually showing bloodshed from the loss of the pregnancy, and a naked woman is striking, especially in 1932 when she did this. But I think it was something that she needed to do. And this was the way that she was able to express what she was going through at that time. And then the painting on the right is called The Broken Column. And she's referencing her spine, which continued to give her trouble throughout her life after the accident. And in the painting, she actually has turned her physical spine into the crumbled remains of a Roman column. And she has, her torso is wrapped with this brace that she had to wear just so that she could hold herself up. And she has pins or little nails that are pricking her skin all over her body. You know, again, giving her pain. And she has tears coming from her eyes, and she's looking straight at the viewer, and she is not shying away from that pain, and she is not shying away from what she's feeling, but she's hitting it head on. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. She's looking at you and saying, look at me, look at what I'm going through. This is how I feel, and don't look away. She could have very easily had painted this with her eyes downcast or even closed. And I don't think it would have kind of the jarring connect with the viewer. Oh, dang it. My mouse is super sensitive. There we go. Okay. So these are two other pieces that I wanted to talk about. The one on the left is my favorite work of hers, and it is called My Dress Hangs There. And the reason that this is my favorite, and the reason that Frida has been a huge influence on my life, is that when I started college, I was in seminary, and I took a class that was learning how to use different outlets to get people to be comfortable talking about difficult subjects, specifically when you would be ministering or counseling. And the instructor actually used this photo to talk about immigration when or moving somewhere, or feeling out of your element. And that's really what this painting is about. This is when Frida and Diego went to New York. She felt very overwhelmed by New York City. There were definitely positives that she enjoyed. She made very good friends there, enjoyed seeing certain things, but she was very overwhelmed by the experience and always felt like she didn't belong. And so this is a piece that is kind of overwhelming the viewer with all of these things that are industrial and American and busy city shapes and colors and busy, busy, busy. And in the middle of it is one of her outfits on a hanger, yet she's not in the painting. A lot of historians would still consider this a self-portrait because it is, you know, that outfit does represent the artist. and that she is absent. She is not, she doesn't feel comfortable here. And even though she is there, she's not. And so this has resurfaced for me. I've used that same idea with students and working in art projects, where we've had the same kind of conversations of where is it that you have to go, or you have to be, but you don't feel like you belong, and have them create that same kind of idea with your favorite outfit. What do you feel comfortable in? You know, jeans and a t-shirt, and where do you not feel comfortable? You know, and it would be something like, you know, a fancy dinner or something with fancy china and ornate centerpieces. And so they would create that space and then put their outfit in that arena, and it just doesn't fit. It doesn't belong. So that's why, one of the reasons I love this piece. I think there's just so much going on in it. And it's incredibly powerful. The one on the right.
Casey,
Yes, ma'am.
does that have collage in it?
It does. It is mixed media.
Okay, I thought so.
Even though it's not listed, the credit doesn't say that, and that's the official one, but there are elements of it, especially at the bottom. I'm pointing like you can see. Oh my goodness. But at the bottom, the brown with the figures,
Yeah.
bottom left, that is pasted on there.
Okay.
Thank you. I thought so, but
Yes. The piece on the right is called What the Water Gave Me. It's also been called What I Saw in the Water. And this is a piece that I think really became important to Frida, but also is really important in her kind of portfolio as an artist, because this was the piece where critics were saying, oh, she's a surrealist artist because she's painting just like the surrealists. She's hanging out with them. She's obviously being influenced by them. So she's taken on their style. And so she is a surrealist painter. And she has said, no, I am not a surrealist. I do not paint of my dreams. I paint my reality, and I paint from memory. And so even if she was influenced by their style, she never accepted the title of surrealist painter. But I think this is also a really great piece. It has a lot going on to it. It also feels very much like a collage piece, in the sense of it has little vignettes. And I actually found this great, I think it was a student's work at USC, yes. And they basically broke down the painting
Oh my goodness.
and figured out what she's referencing in all of the vignettes. And so I can't get it any bigger, unfortunately. I've tried. It's they won't let you kind of zoom in on anything.
Can you
But,
put that link in our chat?
Yes. Doing that now. There you go. So yeah, I thought that was really cool, and what a great project for an art history student. But they basically broke it down and figured out what everything that she's referencing in this one image is referencing stuff all from her past, either works that she had done in the past, or things that she would have seen or influenced her in her travels. Let's see if I can kind of get it. So we have images of the two nude figures on a bed is referencing another piece that she had done in 1939. And then she has references from other artists, Max Ernst. We have the one that we just looked at, the Henry Ford Hospital. So there's some very cool things, and there's actually with this website that you should have access to now is that students work and research on this particular piece. So it'd be really very interesting to see. Let me get this back big. All right. All right. So going back to the book specifically, I wanted to research a little bit about the author and, you know, why did he choose this particular story, and how did he kind of come up with it? And he wanted to write a fairy tale based on the Grimm stories about death. And he is a Mexican writer. This book has been translated from the original Spanish. And he actually has written a lot about death and folklore in Mexican culture. And so that's something that he's always been interested in. He never intended to write about Frida Kahlo. He actually came up with the godmother character first, and knew that he wanted that to be the character of death. And instead of it being a scary kind of evil thought, he wanted it to be somebody that the main character would have a relationship with. And the use of a mounted figure on a horse, which he uses as the messenger, is also very popular, not only in Mexican culture, but also other Hispanic cultures and ancient cultures as well. So how Frida actually became the character is his wife found some recipes that had been left in their home. He moved into his parents' home after they passed, and his wife came across this book that had some paper recipes in it, and was talking to his family, and they said, oh yeah, those are recipes from Frida Kahlo. Your grandmother was really close friends with her, and they used to exchange recipes. And one of those recipes in particular, Kahlo had written on it for godmother death, because she, as in the book, was very vigilant about giving her offerings on the Day of the Dead. And so that was a bread recipe that's in there in the book. That was one that she did every year, and it was specifically labeled for godmother death. And so that's how Frida became the character of his book. And I thought that was really interesting, because I would have thought it was completely the opposite, that he would have wanted to start with Frida and then kind of build the book around her character. So that was nice to hear. I liked that he had no intention of writing about her. And that he said that it was because of her culinary skills that she was able to capture the hearts of so many men of the time, including her husband. And you know, that's definitely something that he includes in the book, is that she cooks for those that she loves and those that she cares about, and that those people keep coming back to her home and wanting more of her food. So her culinary skills, I think, are not as well known as the author would like us to think that they are. I think that she did love to cook. Her and her sister both love to cook. But I don't think it was something that she sought out to, be well known for. I think that was just what she did to feed her husband and his friends, and they would have big parties and things like that. But she was very interested in making sure that traditional Mexican food was always served to their guests, whether they liked it or not, because she wanted to introduce them to flavors and ingredients that they might not have been familiar with. And one of the things that she complains about a lot in a lot of her writings is that when they were in America, in North America, they didn't have access to the good food, and that she said that they were liable to starve to death because there was no good food in any of the places that they had visited. So I thought that was pretty funny. But I'm curious to know if anybody actually would seriously consider making any of the recipes.
Oh. Actually, if the ingredients were available, but some of these ingredients, where are you going to get cactus stuff? I mean, yes, I would be interested. And I have a blender. But
You can get cactus stuff from Capital Market on
Yeah, I
East.
was just gonna say, yeah.
where is that, honey? Where?
Is it Eastern or Southern Boulevard over there?
I think it's still Eastern Boulevard. It's near the corner of Woodley Avenue, I believe. Woodley Road, rather.
Oh, it's a market.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, I did not know about it. Thanks.
I think that is, I'm going to stop sharing because I am done with my presentation. All right.
Oh, good. Honey, thanks.
So I wanted to see if anybody had any other thoughts or things they had either heard about Frida or read in the book, or things that I maybe didn't touch on.
Well, she was such a strong woman, but I just kept feeling so sorry for her all the time. And I know you're not supposed to feel sorry for strong women, but there's an ambivalence about her and her life and what she did and what she didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if the things about Trotsky were based on fact. I know that he lived with them at one time, but anyway, I just wondered how much of that was true.
Yeah.
From what I have read, that yes, they did have a romantic affair, that he was much more deeply in love with her than she was him. I think she loved his idealism and what he believed and how much he believed it, and she found him admirable. And what I have also read is that she entered a relationship with him to make Diego jealous. So
I think that probably happened more than once.
yeah, I think
Right.
the one that I wanted to do more research on it, but I kind of let it slip my mind, is I would be really curious to know if there's any foundation in her having an affair with Georgia O'Keefe.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My inkling is that there is no actual evidence of that. There might be stories, or again, like it would be a juicier tale if it were true.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that they had interactions together, and they had deep respect for each other as artists and as in their careers. But I don't know if there's anything to
But you know, Casey, the list of artists and Henry Miller, I mean, the list of people that came through their life, it's read like the who's who, you know, of artists in that time. So they must have been very influential.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, both Diego and Frida in their own right were also influential, but they were like a true power couple. People wanted both of them to come to their parties, and they wanted, you know, if he got invited to something, it was automatically assumed that she would come, and vice versa. And I think they actually also played that role, you know, that they knew that that was part of this strategy of getting what they wanted. He wanted more commissions. She wanted recognition as an artist. And so they played that part of the power couple that's going to come and entertain you. And Diego's going to make you laugh and probably get a little schnockered and make a fool of himself. And then Frida's going to be incredibly clever and beautiful. And, you know, they're going to be the, you know, I can't think of another current day example that would carry well, but, you know, you want them to come to your party.
And the fact that she dressed so flamboyantly must have been visually, I mean, she was a piece of art walking, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I was saying, I think that that's, you know, that was part of her plan. I think that she made the decision that she was going to be this. She was going to embody that persona.
It's interesting that the book was framed as a memory, somewhat like the Anne Goldthwait book we read.
Interesting.
And just thought it was so readable, even though I admitted I haven't finished. Just very readable, which you had said too, Kaci.
Yeah.
And quickly. I mean, you just, once you start it, you just keep going.
Yeah, I agree. I liked that. I like that there's parts of it that I don't really know if they're true or not. You know, like the fact that I feel like that there was a book that disappeared, and that's how the book starts, with this idea that they were going to open up her house as a museum, and they found this book of her recipes and her kind of thoughts, and then it all of a sudden disappeared. I feel like that's true, but it also could just be part of the story. And I feel like that's kind of nice. I like not really, I always take on the novels thinking I'm gonna like dissect them and figure out, oh, the author had this part wrong, you know. And this wasn't as easy to do to that.
Casey, the fact that the author has himself is Mexican, don't you think that made a big difference?
Yeah.
Because he really, like the Day of the Dead and all this sort of thing, you know, we gringos don't understand all the traditions that are so typical of the Mexican culture, you know.
Yeah, and I think he does a really good job of celebrating them. You know, I mentioned that this was originally in Spanish and it's been translated, and that there were things in the book that I was missing, and I wonder if those things are there in the original version. You know, maybe something did get lost in translation, but I think he did a really good job of kind of articulating those traditions that some of us are probably not as familiar with.
Well, Kaci, I think ambiguity is the most seductive element of fiction. It preserves the mystery.
Yeah.
If you know something did happen, well, okay, you know it, and
Yeah.
that's when the mystery dies. The ambiguity keeps the mystery alive.
Exactly. And maybe that's why I always like the novels, because there is that element of, you know, I really engage well with storytelling. And so rather than kind of facts all the time, I want the narrative and I want the scene set and all of those things. And that's probably part of it too, is I want to not know if everything is true and it happened just that way. I like the kind of mystique of it.
You know, I have been to her house in Coyoacan. I don't know how you say that. And it's phenomenal. I mean, they have her bed with the mirror over it and her costumes, some of her costumes, and the easel. And anyway, it just, you know, I think the way he kind of describes it is
Mhm.
pretty accurate.
Are you able to go through the whole house?
Yeah.
Or just certain
I mean,
parts?
this has been, you know, a number of years ago, but yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
outside of Mexico City. It's kind of in a suburb of Mexico City, but it's, yeah. And you know, it's a museum, but it feels like just going through her house.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a museum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what she would want too. I don't think
Yeah.
she would want like, I mean, I think she appreciated having gallery shows and things like that. But I think when she wanted people to understand her as an artist, she would have want them to be in her studio space or her home space, not in a museum. Maybe that's,
Yeah.
I just feel like I know her and I feel like I know what she would want.
Right.
Oh, I see somebody's cat. That's fun. All right.
And Kaci, when you're talking about how important her person and her persona is and how well known, I found when I was teaching high school, it was so important for young women who were not identifying as straight to have this example in art history, and really just that she was so bold and fun. It's certainly a great example for all of us women, but I found particularly there was a lot of identification with her openness about her identity with students.
Well, I think it's interesting too, Alice, that you point that out, and that, you know, that she did tackle a lot of really taboo subjects in her work, yet that's not actually what she's known for either. Like,
Yeah.
she's not known for being this, oh, she's a rebel rouser, or she's known for being a, you know, bisexual artist. You know, those are things we know of her, but they still don't drive what we expect of her, you know? And I think that says a lot about her person too, and her persona, is that those aren't the driving forces. Those are just all things that are accepted about her. And, you know, they aren't the identifying thing, but that her work or her personality or her, you know, fashion or whatever, those are all parts of this bigger thing that identify her as a woman artist. So, all right, we are just about at 1 hour. So I want to make sure anybody else has an opportunity to share or comment or ask a question before we hit our 1 hour mark.
Show us your little Frida again.
Hello, Frida. She's right here. Sure. Her little roses smell like roses. Be fun. This was a gift from Laura Boquin. She has a detachable heart. And I think a little monkey comes with it if you want a monkey instead of a heart. But everybody wants an anatomically correct heart. And then there's a monkey on her back. So. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. The next month's book is called Old in Art School. And Laura Boquin claims that she's going to be.
I'll say a word.
Claim. Yeah.
I claim.
You claim.
Well, we all know having a baby any second. And
or you may still be pregnant by then. I don't know.
Okay. But I decided several months ago that even though I'm still about to have a baby, I'm doing my book club, y'all. You're not taking this away from me. I'm doing it. So tune in.
Let's hope it's not from the maternity ward.
Do what, George?
Let's hope you're not giving us your presentation from the maternity ward.
I better not be. He's due next Friday, and I honestly thought he was going to come about 2 weeks ago, and we're ready.
I'm excited about this one because Nell Painter is really fascinating. I caught her when she was doing an interview with Stephen Colbert on her book, The History of White People, and they arm wrestle. So anyone who's willing to arm wrestle on public TV with Stephen Colbert, I'm for.
She's a cool lady, but yeah, I did not know that. Now I'm going to look that up. We might get that clip during my reading group next month. All right, thanks, Amy. But yeah, hopefully everything goes well, and you know, with getting fits out of me, and I'll see you guys next month. What is it? April 14th? That's my day. Cassandra said yes. Okay, good. And it's nonfiction. It's a memoir. Just like Kaci likes her fiction, I like my nonfiction. So y'all will enjoy it. Old in art school. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Laura?
I see you guys next month.
See you guys next month.
Awesome.
All
All right.
right.
Cassandra.
Thank you, everybody. That's a great way to end. I think anything that ends with Flora is a good way to end. So
Yeah, right.
thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great afternoon, and we hope to see you all soon at the museum.